The vaccines. Have you guys got the vaccine yet? I mean, it is a little known thing. People are trying to sort of keep it under wraps, but podcasters actually get the vaccine before the elderly or frontline medical workers.
Yep.
I
got
true.
the suppository. That's not standard or, in fact, recommended, but I insisted.
I had to suck it out of Joe Biden's dick, but it was worth it. It tasted good.
So we're recording at Monday afternoon. Just a couple hours ago, I watched on live TV as Biden got a vaccine. And he also, by the way, he had nipples protruding. It was very disrespectful. He was wearing like a kind of a tight black shirt, and the nips were on appearance. And I got to say, Joe's brain is clearly cottage cheese, but he does not have those like pasty fish belly old man arms that you know, for example, Trump has. He's actually got some muscle definition. Kind of surprising to me for a 78-year-old man.
Well, Joe was an athlete. Like as a boy, he was like he probably auditioned for the Black Sox. Whatever a baseball audition is, you fill it in at home. I don't really care.
After he got the thing, he thanked Dr. Salk for his amazing invention.
yeah.
Listen, I'm not trying to keep 8 men out. I want to bring them in, Jack. I said.
Yeah, Biden. He was an athletic young man. I mean, he famously won all those fights at the segregated swimming pool. Mm-hmm. You did see his nipples a lot in the "God, My Dad Could Drive a Car" video.
God, can my dad drive a car? Oof.
Yeah,
I think we all remember his nips in there.
Oh yeah,
but I think that's honestly one of the reasons he won is because he's he's like an old piece of shit that his body isn't fully disgusting, and that's aspirational to.
No, I mean
Americans.
he's for a guy of his age, he's pretty handsome, and I remember we talked about the "God, My Dad Could Drive a Car" video, and looking back on it, that's when we all should have known that he was going to win the presidency, is because he looks good, he looks good in that car with those sunglasses on.
Yeah, he looks like they say in baseball, he looks good being helped off a bus.
Well, I mean, the contrast with Trump is serious because Trump is a very wet old man. He's a wet, soggy garbage bag of an old man, and that's not aesthetically pleasing in the way of sort of an old man who kind of dries out into hickory, the way that Biden has.
Yes.
I do like the idea that so he's getting injected on TV. We're seeing a lot of these Congress people getting injected, including people like Joni Ernst, who spent much of this year telling people that doctors were lying about people dying from COVID to, quote, get more money. And now she's cashing out on the T virus or whatever. I mean, I just like the idea that it's that movie Inner Space, and Martin Short is getting injected into Joe Biden's bloodstream, and that's what's making him talk funny.
Yeah.
Or it's actually Dennis Quaid getting injected into Biden's bloodstream. Sorry there to my Inner Space.
What the fuck, dude? Joe Dante is going to kick your ass now.
Joe, I'm sorry.
I actually think it's
myself.
I actually think it's like Osmosis Jones.
a more timely reference.
Yeah.
For the Zoomers in the audience.
I have great friends with the black community. I'm the first white boy to ever get a black guy injected into me, man.
Well, I mean, I did see something in there's sort of these tranches of who gets the vaccine first or whatever. There was that New York Times thing to just figure out where you are in line, and I think I'm for me personally, I'm around 320 million in line. I think that's about my number, which is okay for me because that'll give me a lot of time to really suss out whether this is turning people into mutants or not.
Yeah.
But I did notice
to see some real short-term impact studies, just in terms of watching people either start having things fall off of them or not.
No, but I did see something in so it's sort of who gets it first. Obviously, the elderly are most at risk, but then there's obviously frontline medical workers, probably the most important, but not in the very, very, very first tier of most essential workers, but in the second. I did see a breakdown of it, and it did include financial workers, bankers and stockbrokers and shit like that, which is
they work at the money store. You need people who work at the money store.
And then I think Ken Klippenstein posted something about that showed that Northrop Grumman executives were also getting sort of slid in there as an essential employees.
There's a hospital or a medical facility in California where all of the executives who were not even coming into work and were working remotely were going to get it because the algorithm determined that was who should get it, and before people who actually had to work with patients. I think that algorithm was just like, rank plus salary.
Well, yeah, there we go. The vaccine is coming. We just got to hold on just a little bit. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. What's that? By God, is that the UK variant coming through with a 70% higher contagious rate? Oh Lord! Oh
boy.
Lord! Okay,
Lord,
don't
no.
cancel your plans for 2021. We're staying in again. Yeah. Well. The other thing I just want to say, like, as regards, like, this vaccine trickling out and trickling into the veins of some of our most wonderful elected representatives is, I saw a lot of people getting mad this week because there was all these like photos about life in China now, and like they're fucking loving it. They're having a great
pool
time.
Party, baby.
They're at raves. They're eating in restaurants. They're having a great time.
That soup is back on the menu.
People are super pissed about it because they're like, oh, like they're rubbing it in our faces, or like, this is an authoritarian country or whatever. And it's just like, well, first of all, they have every right to fucking spike it in our faces, even if like you believe that they created this specifically for, the purposes of.
If so, it's like, hey, you did it. Congratulations.
Yeah, it worked.
The plan went off flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, like, could you imagine America ever pulling that? Like, we definitely want to do that to people, but like, I don't think we couldn't get it together. We would put like Heather Brecht in charge of inventing the Wuhan virus that kills people, and it just like it wouldn't work. It would only work on like Welsh people.
And it would cost $7 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I just like, there's a certain strain of like commentary on that where they're like, well, yes, China did, see a nation of about 1 billion people through this lockdown and have, pretty much gone back to normal, but they're an authoritarian state. And I'm like, well, okay, first of all, if you're defending democracy, like, you're not doing the best job by making that comparison with America. But second of all, like, America is, if you're not wealthy, already an insanely authoritarian country, but we have none of the benefits of like,
all we get is the authoritarian
tyrannical power being used to, like, I don't know, help anyone, or like, I don't know, just if not help anyone, just make sure shit runs okay, and like things are
but so much of the authoritarianism, it gets to be offloaded onto your boss or some shit, so it doesn't count.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, if that's, I mean, I would like one authoritarianism, please.
Yeah.
Did you see
I will give up the right to post pictures of President Xi looking like Winnie the Pooh. I mean, that's fine. I don't feel the need to do that. I don't care to do it. I would like to go into a public building and not worry that I was gonna fucking have some sort of horrifying disease come.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Every thing people post about China, like, I always think about when Dennis Ross, the repellent career-long diplomat and paid Saudi asset, who worked for the Clinton State Department, among other things. A guy asked him a pointed question about the war in Yemen at a public library in Kansas City, and he just had the guy dragged off. And it's like, no, yeah, this is just like, if you're the wrong guy, you get completely fucking railed in this country. I mean, American freedom of speech is like one of the only really great things we have going compared to a lot of other places, but it's, terms and conditions may apply.
Yeah, seriously.
void where prohibited.
Yeah, and God, like, I mean, what is freedom but, being able to go to a pool party without dying, like they can do in China now, literally in Wuhan, in the epicenter of it.
And the thing about like getting mad at China, like, this is all playing into the hands of everyone in charge, because that's the next play. You could already see it forming up in the media sphere. The next play is, everything is shitty. China's fault. Because, if you're Democrats, you can't really blame the Republicans anymore. So it's going to have to be China. And of course, the Republicans already started off by blaming China in order to offload their own responsibility. So there's going to be a bipartisan consensus that the one target that you can blame everything for is China, which also goes to benefit the long-term strategy of the defense establishment, which is looking for a new reason for being, because the whole war on terror thing is running out of gas, and a new brinksmanship with China is going to be it.
Yeah, and like you brought up the Xi is Winnie the Pooh, which Marsha Blackburn, that
so
that
epic.
awful woman from Tennessee posted, and she was like, in China you would be arrested for this, and like this is why they're bad or whatever. I'd just like to point out that like Marsha Blackburn like sponsored a bill to make desecrating the American flag like a felony or something.
Yeah.
And then like when she was giving some like talk like or in front of Google, she like asked personally whether an employee who criticized her on Twitter wasn't fired for being mean to her or something like that. Yeah, it's just the comforts of living in a free country.
Yeah, you
right?
get to you're free to say anything, and then you're free to be fired and never work again. That's freedom, baby.
No, but China is bad because they censor their TV and films, which we don't do here. There's no censorship on Disney Plus or Hulu or any of that. They're not just rapidly recutting everything, and no one owns any physical media. It's not just that you're censored by Disney.
Well, as long as we're bringing up the entertainment industry, I wanted to segue into the other big news of the week, which is this sort of the stimulus bill, the sort of COVID relief thing that's now sort of after months and months is in the final stages of being negotiated into like a bill that could be voted on up or down. The New York Times says it's good enough, folks. It's good enough.
Never mind then.
But there are some goodies in here. Like, I mean, there's just like off the bat, like there's a couple things here. Like, it does provide like an extension in unemployment insurance, and then there's like let's see here, unemployment in America. Stimulus checks are about a fifth of the total bill. If you're unemployed, you get an extra $1,300 a month through mid-March. There's $300 billion in PPP loans and like payroll support for small businesses. But keep in mind the things that aren't in it. And like, to get rid of the awful GOP liability shield, there will be no retroactive unemployment insurance. There will not be checks for immigrants or adult dependents. There will not be any direct aid for state or local governments or hazard pay for essential workers. And there's a couple other things that I think of note that were snuck into like any of these big spending bills. It's always just a grab bag of like people filling out their personal little like lobbying ticket items. And you brought up streaming services in the entertainment industry. In the COVID-19 stimulus bill, there is something that would make illegal streaming a felony. I'm just going to read here. This is from the Hollywood Reporter here. It says,
the clamor of the American people for this has grown too strong to ignore any longer.
It says here, providing relief via direct assistance and loans to struggling individuals and businesses hit hard by COVID-19 has been a priority for federal lawmakers this past month. But a gigantic spending bill also has become an opportunity to smuggle in some other line items, including those of special interest to the entertainment community. Perhaps most surprisingly, according to the text of the
abolishing age of consent.
According to the text of the bill being circulated, illegal streaming for commercial profit could become a felony. It's been less than 2 weeks since Senator Tom Tillis released his proposal to increase the penalties for those who would dare stream unlicensed work. This time, Tillis' attempt was winning better reviews for narrowly tailoring the provisions toward commercial operators rather than users. Oh, okay, thank God. That said, it had very little time to circulate before evidently becoming part of the spending passage. If passed, illegal streaming of works or of movies and music could carry up to 10 years in jail. That's not the only copyright change. The spending bill also appears to adopt a long-discussed plan to create a small claims adjudication system within the U.S. Copyright Office.
I'm going to have fucking Judge Judy in there sentencing people to Leavenworth for fucking streaming Dua Lipa songs.
That's... I expected that to be from like one of the one of David Geffen's representatives. Like I expected that to be from Adam Schiff or any of those guys. But
yeah, one of those Hollywood pedophile guys.
From Tom Tillis. Like Tom Tillis' thing is like that he's a fucking Carolina shit kicker, and he's just making more money for Jeffrey Katzenberg.
But no, they're populism. They're going to fight evil Hollywood guys.
Yeah, there's a realignment happening now, and you have to vote Republican or you hate workers.
I do like the idea that here's your $600, and here is a star chamber where if you do the wrong download, you will go to jail.
I will be the first man to die by trial by combat because I streamed a Meatloaf song on a Russian website.
Objects in the rear view mirror may appear closer than they are.
That's a copyrighted phrase. You're going to prison. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're going to prison.
I did that as an act of protest.
You're going to prison right now.
This line item. I think it's funny though because it's like, okay, now it's been winnowed down to like just the actual check, the actual cash in hand is now $600, which is half of the $1,200 that was being talked about before the election. And the Democrats did tank that on purpose to deny Trump.
Nancy Pelosi admitted
it. It's clear. They openly admitted that. Now, of course, they're like, you should be happy with the $600, and then they're going to say, oh well, we would have liked to give you $1,200, but it was more important that Trump not be president. Well, okay, well then you can't fucking complain about how paltry it is now, or like tell people it's good enough when you were actively involved in fucking cutting that number in half for people.
I think it's going to be great when people who aren't politically obsessed psychos notice that under Trump they got $1,200 and under Biden they got $6.
Yeah.
That's literally the opposite of politics. What you're doing. Congratulations.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's sort of become a punchline now that the New York Times says, like the stimulus bill is good enough. And, is it better than doing absolutely nothing? Like, I guess maybe probably not politically. I mean, just in terms of like some meager relief, I suppose something's better than nothing. But in the long run, it's exactly like the fucking the last bailouts to get us out of an economic crisis. No normal person or like average, certainly not working person is still going to be in a fucking vice. They spent 9 months having like, no work or paltry work or, facing eviction or whatever. And then like whatever they're going to get now is just going to be just enough to pretend in the media like they've done something, but designed to be as baffling as possible. Because like the key thing here with any of these, at a time when like even people like Larry Summers are saying we need like direct stimulus of the economy, right, to keep it from fucking crashing, is that they have to make it like as complicated and like paltry enough that like they just don't want people realizing that the government just directly giving people money not only stimulates the economy but like actually like works.
The first stimulus check, the first stimulus bill, the CARES Act, was just a giant pile of fucking made money that they just gave to the richest people in this country. Just made up numbers on a ledger. Beep boop. Here, you have this money now. There was checks for regular people, and that's what, according to like Ron Johnson, is going to destroy the fucking the deficit. Oh no, the deficit's going to get us. And not just that, just pure huge pool of money, just like in 2008, to the richest people in the country. If people really realize that, they know they could give that. They could do that to regular people. They could redirect that money downward to the demand side. And it would actually be effective as a economic stimulus, and it would be good politics, but it would also take the fucking boot off of people's necks. And if the boot's off your neck, why are you going to drive for Uber? Why are you going to work at a fucking Amazon fulfillment center? Why would you do that if you had any breathing room at all? And so they cannot allow it.
And that, like, some politicians or like economists are actually quite open in saying that like a problem with things like stimulus is that we need people scared enough to go back to work.
Yeah.
And like there's a sort of a disciplinary function of like keeping this as meager as possible.
The whole thing is that the only way to understand the fucking economy in general is as a disciplinary mechanism for people. That's why it's there.
To keep people engaged with the fucking economy and keep them working for it. And like Matt, like a perfect example is like the Obama like bailout in 2008, because like like the Pod Johns or people involved in that administration will always say like, yes, we did give $1 trillion to banks and Wall Street with absolutely no strings attached. But, if we didn't, the economy would have just collapsed and shit itself outside and like inside out. And, they're not wrong about that. Like the economy desperately needed like a huge infusion of money to to not collapse. But what they neglect from saying is that they could have used that exact same amount of trillions of dollars and just shored up homeowners directly rather than the banks who gave them these fucking loans that burst the whole fucking thing in the first place. If they just made everyone whole and just said, bloop, we're wiping it all out at the level of the people who held these fucking mortgages, like not the banks who issued the loans that caused this housing bubble, which blew up the fucking economy. The same effect of shoring up the economy would have been achieved, but like it would have done something good for people instead of just like, like Matt said, people who are not politically obsessed weirdos who just
Just a correction, though. TARP was Bush. Obama did vote for it, and most Democrats did support it. But I mean, another great example is the Obama stimulus, which was a huge bill, and a huge portion of that money was doled out through tax cuts. It was sort of a precursor to what we saw at the TARP Act, how Democrats are going to do stimulus. There is going to be, it's just basically a slush fund. It's a slush fund where everyone from Paramount Pictures to Raytheon can find enough legal loopholes to get no interest loans, to get massive tax credits, to get basically completely legal tax shelters that make up the majority of the cost of the bill, and very little actual cash is given to people.
Speaking of that, there is another line item in the coronavirus stimulus that says that if you own a racehorse, you get a tax break. There's a tax write-off for owning a racehorse in there. And as long as we're talking about a slush fund, the new COVID relief bill, the COVID stimulus bill to provide relief to people in America for this pandemic and quarantine and its economic and social and medical effects, also includes $500 million in foreign aid to Israel that is earmarked for them to help build their Iron Dome missile defense program. $500 million for Israel and the COVID stimulus bill.
Talk about disciplinary. $600 in and of itself, it is a fuck you. It's a bigger fuck you than $0 because it's like, this is the limit of what you're getting. This is high
after
limit.
all of the process, both parties working, this is what you get. Nothing else is possible and the evidence is this is what it is because the system produced it.
But this Israel thing. I mean, you also kind of got to believe it's disciplinary, though, because after years of just telling you that Jeremy Corbyn is a Jew hater, and Nancy Pelosi going out of her way to talk about how she was meeting with former Jewish members of labor to talk about how anti-Semitic the party is, after all this, after every Democrat just kneeling before AIPAC every year and pledging their fealty, they're putting this in the bill after having, giving you a means-tested $1,200 and then just barely shaking the last piss out of their cock, $600 into your mouth. The Iron Dome, money that Israel doesn't even need. This is specifically just to make you crazy.
Moo. Moo.
Well, it's also to make sure that if we do go to war with Iran, that Israel will be covered. Apparently, also in the stimulus is money to put a consulate in Tibet so that we can heighten the contradictions there and further our diplomatic efforts at raising some sort of conflict with China. So that's cool.
I have to say, there is no bigger fucking cuck right now than the American who bitches about China all day.
Yeah.
You are the biggest fucking loser in the world if you do that.
Yeah, China made us ship all of our industry to them.
Yeah.
They made us do that.
Yeah, they really twisted our arm there.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. If you spend all day, making Reddit memes about G and shit, it's like, you're a fucking loser. They wiped you out. They wiped this fucking country out. Our leaders did. And this is all you can fucking talk about? You don't give a shit. You don't give a shit. This is just a fucking coping mechanism. You see the ascendant world power, and you just have to believe that they're worse than America. Yeah. Anything bad they do is just identical to America's imperial behavior. It's the biggest fucking... You're doing like John Noonan's fucking job for him. What a fucking loser thing to do.
Yeah, you might as well just have all of your dank memes just have like CIA in the corner of them. Little watermark.
Mitch McConnell can go to Cold Stone Creamery and get infant fetus soft serve. No problem. No one yells at him. He's fine. He's safe. No one Nancy Pelosi could get her 8th tit job at age 98. No one fucking cares. But all you bitch about is China. God, what a fucking loser you'd have to be.
Well, it's got to be someone's fault. And like I said, this, it was it was at $300 a week unemployment insurance, $600 personal check, and then an assortment of billions for things like schools and PPP and $13 billion for quote hunger and food and things like that. I mean, it's enough that they can point at it and be like, what, $13 billion? We're spending it on food. We're feeding the hungry. But we all know that if this were serious, there wouldn't be $500 million in there for fucking Israel, right?
Right.
And it's just if you complain about it, it's just you're oh nothing's ever good enough for you, or wouldn't you rather have something instead of nothing? It's just it's the same old shit.
Or it's oh well, why aren't you mad at Mitch McConnell? Well, why can't you win more fucking seats? You're talking about how you have to do all this to win seats, and you can't fucking do it.
That's because the country is too racist.
Yeah, right.
The country is too overwhelmed with Neanderthals, and you have to speak very softly and very politely to them to keep them from going mad and mauling you. And if it's like, well, if that's the case, then what am I supposed to be in? If I'm supposed to believe science and know the reality of the trajectory that we're on as a planet, and you're telling me that, well, this is politics, it cannot be any other way, and these outcomes are the best outcomes we can hope for, why the shit are you so invested in me rooting for the Democrats then? When you are basically telling me that, no, yeah, doom is the only option. It's doom, you're doomed. Okay, well then, my God, let me enjoy that. Let me enjoy my fucking black pill instead of telling me, no, you're still, even though we're doomed, even though the ship is going to slam into the side of a fucking mountain, you still have to care about how many fucking seats the Democrats pick up in a fucking special election in Georgia.